Okay, so we're going to record this to the cloud so that you can go back and kind of use it as an instruction guide or a map of how to navigate this system. It's kind of intimidating at first, I will admit, but after you mess with this presentation software a couple of times, it gets really fast and really easy.
Okay.
I don't do a lot of buyer presentations, obviously, but I'm up to over 150 seller presentations now inside of the system. And I can literally crank one out in like 6 minutes, right? So in six
Okay.
minutes, I have just an absolute quality piece of marketing that I can hand to them that, they will keep. Business cards are easy to lose, but a magazine size hardcover book is something that they don't
Yeah.
lose, right? So that's why I think it's so
Mm.
powerful. So with that, I'll see if I can put this box over in front of my face because I don't really care. That way, if anybody shows up, it's good. But I'm going to share the screen and kind of start to go through it. I'm just going to actually build one. And before we start building it, you'll notice right away that the first thing that this thing asks you for is an address, right? So, oh, there's Cindy. Hold on. So anything in KV Core hey Cindy, anything in KV Core that gets generated will ask you for an address. Now you can go ahead and make something address specific, but for today, what we're practicing or we're working on is I'm showing you how to make a generic informational non-address based package that is just kind of like a giant business card, right? So it asks you for an address. We've got to put something in. We'll go through the steps, put something in, and then in the end, I'll show you how to get rid of all that crap so that what you're left with is a PDF of just the informative stuff. Sound good? All
Yep.
right. So let's get into this. Let's share the screen. Sharing it. All right. So this is the first screen that you come into after you log into the NextHome intranet. This is kind of the home page of the NextHome intranet. And over here on the left, we've got all of our kind of key platform links inside the single sign-on intranet. And so what we're going to do is we can do it one of two ways. I'm going to do it the long way. We're going to actually launch KV Core, the whole platform. Spinning, spinning, spinning. Too much bandwidth going on through the internet today, right? So bear with us. Watch, it's not going to load.
Maybe an airplane flew through the signal.
There's the airplane is, or a helicopter is hovering at the signal, like deflecting the air, right? Here we go.
Hey, DB, I was at the office yesterday or the day before.
Yeah.
Was going to put in an hour or two, and my internet was not connecting to it. So just remind me, you have to just troubleshoot. Maybe I didn't have the the password or something.
No, KB, the internet was actually down. I had to unplug everything and replug it back in when I got here today, and then it popped right back up. So
Okay.
I'll show you how to actually it's really pretty inside that closet, that first closet there.
Yeah.
There's two pieces of equipment. Unplug both of them and leave them
Mhm.
unplugged for like a minute and then plug them back in and you'll be back in business. I
Okay.
don't know why it does it, but it does it every once in a while.
All right.
Okay, so now we're inside of KV Core. This is the dashboard that I'm always talking about to you guys where you can see what's going on with all of your contacts and everything. I'm not going to spend some time on that. But over here on the left, are your tabs inside of KV Core, and the one that we're working with and that we care about is Core Present. That's in the marketing tab, which is represented by the paper airplane. So we're going to drop down and we're going to open up Core Present. This is the same tab for all presentation software, whether it be buyer presentation, seller presentation, You can put together a buyer tour in here that's really slick too. So you have a buyer that says, hey, I want to see 5 houses. They give you all 5 addresses. You can jump in here and set up a buyer tour. We're not going to do that today, but this thing right here, if you had 5 addresses that you knew that you were going to see that day, you could click that box. You could set up those 5 addresses in like a mini presentation with some CMA data, and it's really, really cool. So what we're going to work on today is win the offer. That's the buyer presentation. It's called win the offer, create a presentation for the buyer. So we link that up. And as promised, the first thing that it wants is an address. So let me move this box over here. So we're just going to, at this point in time, you can really click in any address that you want to, right? So probably like the coolest house in California. Oh, I got to get rid of your guys' boxes too. And then we're going to hit next. The system right now is going to be chewing on data. Okay. So it's going to pull up some assessor data automatically. If it doesn't pull up assessor data automatically, you know something's wrong. We don't really care about that right now. So what we're going to do at this point is, because we're making something generic and because we don't really care about comp data and all of that, we're making a generic proposal. We're going to skip to presentation. If I say skip to comparable details, that's where you can get into property specific information on whatever address you put in here. KV Core will go through and it'll automatically pull up comps and it'll pull up value graphs and all this really, really cool stuff for you to use. Or you can enter the comps manually, but we're not dealing with that. Again, we're making a generic giant business card type presentation. So we're going to skip to the presentation. It's going to chew on some data. Okay, and what we have then is it jumps to the final product of the presentation. Now, over here on the left-hand side, this is the slides or the pages that are inside of that presentation, right? So if we drop down each of these categories, you can see what's going to be inside of the presentation if you don't mess with it. This is what it's going to come with. Okay, you're going to have a slide, an about me slide. You're going to have a referral slide. And then we start to get into what I think is important and what I think you guys need to package. And that's all of the stuff that NextHome Marketing spends a ton of time and money on to give you presentation materials. So you have all these pages that talk about things that are important to buyers or sellers. This is going to be, this particular package is going to lean towards the buyer, not the seller, because that's who it's for. Okay. Talk about the path to purchasing. It talks about contracts and negotiations. It talks about what we do, but look at the art, look at the words, look at the content that's included in this thing. So this got a page on our charity partner. This is where it's got things that we don't care about. So now we're seeing where this thing is pulling property specific sales data. So we know this is not property specific. We're making a generic presentation. I don't want that slide in there. So right here, I'm just going to click that X and it's gone. It's removed, right? I'll show you something else pretty cool. There's also, there's a set of slides that comes up default, right? So you're going to have slides that come up default every time, all the time. We also have access to other slides that you may want to include in your presentation that don't necessarily come with the default. So I think it's good to know, for example, when you're trying to deal with buyers and you want them to react quickly, I think it's good to know how interest works, on a listing. So I might want to add in that slide, talks about the funnel of buyers' interest and activity. I'll add that to my presentation. Now it's in there. If you don't like where it's located, we can switch it, right? We can change the order of how the slides appear inside the presentation. My advice to you in the beginning, until you're really, really solid on the content and what's in there, my advice to you is don't move stuff around. Like it's put in there in an order that makes sense scientifically to someone that was going to read it, okay, based on overall averages and percentages. So you might say, well, I don't like reading it like that. Okay, great. If you're 1 out of 10 and the other 9 like reading it like that, you should tailor to them, not to you. Okay. Also, be careful about what you add. A lot of this stuff comes up generically, the stuff that comes up default is, has been studied to be the most important, most specific stuff. And in a lot of cases, less is more, right? So we don't want to bury them in, a minutia of data that makes them say, well, I don't want to read this thing. It's like reading an instruction manual and throw it away or disregard it. The better scenario might be to give them just enough to really pique their interest and give them just enough to prompt them to ask you more questions and engage deeper in conversation, right? So we're looking at these to make sure that we want this stuff in our presentation. A market overview, that's not such a bad thing, except remember, it's going to be property specific because we had to put in that address to make it work. So we really want to get rid of that. What if they are looking at housing in a completely different area than the random address that you picked? The data will be no good. You want to get rid of that. There's pages on financing. There's pages on what, buy now strategy. Obviously, everything in our presentation is going to lean towards the fact that they should take action sooner than later, right? But really, really good stuff. Super, super clean, super, super succinct, good images. Whether you're in the buyer or the seller presentation, there will be sections about buying or selling distressed properties. It comes up as a default, okay? This has 2 slides talking about purchasing a short sale or purchasing an REO. Unless your client has said to you specifically, I want to look at buying a distressed property for my general sitting on the bookshelf ready to go presentations, I'm gonna drop the 2 distressed property pages. And selfishly, I don't want to represent buyers in those transactions because it is zero fun, right? Especially a short sale. There's a whole tab on what's my home worth. Okay, again, you're going to want to get rid of this right away because that's not what we're dealing with. So we're going to drop both of those slides. And then you've got the final tab for next steps, which is a thank you. And it's got a couple of options. Do you want to get started, or do you need more time? So what you're left with after we've gone through and we've done that is the generic kind of stuff, except what you can't delete, and is really frustrating to me, is you can't delete that title page, right? With the address on it. So, rather than doing that, I just had a thought. I'm going to try it. We can take it out here. And rather than the address, we could put in a name. Click apply. And then write something really catchy. And now our presentation is titled to our client, right? So We used a bogus address because we have to put in something. We created a presentation. The presentation defaults to a property specific or a property related format. We go through on the left side of the column and we manually drop the pages out that have to do with property information, property value, all of those things that we don't need. We modify the title page so that rather than having an address, a property address, and a bedroom, bathroom count, it's got a name and a catchy slogan for our client. And what we've got now is a non-property specific, generic, really, really slick, really, really cool institutional form of marketing, right? Business card on steroids. This is what we do, and this is how I do it, and nobody else is going to give this to you, so you think I'm going to be really, really slick. Okay. One thing you can do also, you can up here in the left-hand, upper left-hand corner, we can change it. We can change the format. There's traditional, modern, and luxury. You can't use luxury unless you're luxury certified. I don't know if your guys' CRM will even give you that option. It probably won't. I personally like the modern layout a little bit better, so I should have said that from the beginning, but I clicked to modern. And the reason that I like modern the most is, let me see if I can find it, find a slide with it. Well, here's a good example. When you use the modern format, you get all of these highlight blocks in this really cool blue. You don't get that when you use traditional. It's just text on top of a white background, which is fine. It still looks good, but I like the highlight boxes, and you get that when you use the modern format versus the traditional format. Let's see if I can nerd out for you on a different page that has the blue on it. Probably not. In the seller presentations, there's a whole bunch of those highlighted blue boxes, and I just think they're like catchy and cool. So I like them. But anyways, find which one, play with it a little bit and decide which format you like best. Do you like the traditional format? Do you like the modern format? Look at the way that the pages come across. Decide which one you like best. Decide which one you think looks the best and use that one. Okay. Once we've got that all done and we've gone through and we've made our modifications, we've deleted the pages we don't want, we've changed that title page, we can go into this and click present and share. Upper right-hand corner. This is going to take a minute. It's going to chew on some data, right? Now, what you're looking at on the screen at this point is the electronic version of your generic presentation. Okay. We're probably not going to worry about this right now because we're talking about making yourself an inventory to keep on the shelf. But if you knew who your client was in advance and you knew that you were going to be meeting them and you were going to be bringing a physical presentation, you could also add them to your CRM, name them right here, and send them an electronic copy as well. You could do both, okay? In my experience, even with the people that have asked me, would you make me a presentation? I email mine. I do this electronic version, and I do a hard copy version for every single one that I do, okay? They don't really like to spend a lot of time looking through the electronic version. And I don't know why. Maybe it loads slow. Maybe they don't like the slideshow effect. Maybe they think it's corny. I don't know. But they love the book. They love the book and they hate the email. And I don't know why. So another little strategy, I never email it before I hand it to them physically. Right? So I hand it to them physically. I let them get wowed by by the book, for lack of a better term. I call it the book. I let them get wowed by the book, and at the end of the conversation, I'll let them know, hey, oh, by the way, I'm also going to send you an electronic version of this in case you want to review it on your phone or your tablet or your computer, or in case you want to forward it to somebody else, right? So they can forward it to somebody else. So again, we're not going to worry about that now. We're going to get to download and print. We're going to click the download and print button. And here you go. Into your download section, this is what your generic presentation is going to look like, right? So there's your cover page, gets into the presentation, and here's all of your pages. It's ready to download, save. Once you have this thing dialed in the way you want it to be dialed in as a generic presentation, you can save it in your cloud so that when you run out of inventory, you don't have to do it again. It's ready to go. Okay. Very clean, very slick, very nice. And what we're talking about in total is 21 pages. Okay. So you've got 21 pages of really, really good information that you're going to be dropping on someone at your first meeting. And when you bind it, hold on. Oh, I'm not on camera. When you bind it in the hardbound NextHome binder or the clear plastic binder, it looks really, really good, really, really clean. Everybody's seen one, but this is not property specific. This is you specific. This is company specific. And this client, this buyer, or this person that you meet, whoever it is, they're yours. Nobody else is going to drop this on them. I promise you that. They absolutely will not. So I've got that made. I'm going to go ahead and download it. I got all these boxes I'm trying to move around. This is crazy. Buyer, oops. Buyer, pres, inventory. Save. I spelt it wrong. Oh well. It's okay. There it is. It's done. I'm going to send that to the printer. I'm going to send it to a local printer that's going to, two-side. Okay, have your printer print it two-sided. Spend the extra $2 and get the upgraded paper. Don't, you have the copy paper. Spend the extra $2, get the upgraded paper, and have them print it off. They'll cost you around $15 a copy. Okay, that's how much you're going to spend. So if you say, hey, I want to have 3 in inventory, then you're going to spend $45 when you send it to Staples. That's how much it's going to cost. Cost you $45. And this is the response that I love. That's too much money. Okay, let me ask you this. If you're going to meet somebody for the first time and you want to lock them in, you want to make sure that they use you and they don't drop you for another agent that's got some, that appears slicker or whatever. You want to lock them in and make you the undeniable choice. Would you spend $15 to lock that client in? Would you spend the $15? Knowing that you spend more than $15 when you do a Starbucks run for you and one other person. You spend more than that, right? So for less than it would cost you to buy that client a mocha, caramel, latte, frappa, whatever, for less than that would cost, you will lock them in. You will absolutely lock them in. It's a no-brainer. Okay. If you don't have $15 or you're not willing to commit $15 to lock in a client that is going to pay you a commission, well, I don't know. I don't really have a response to that. Michael's got some hand signals as far as a response to that. They're probably pretty good. So I think he just said that they were number one, but I'm not sure. That's it. It's that easy. Okay. You can get it done first time around. You can get it done. It might take you 20, 25 minutes to get it done the first time around. I get it. It can be a little difficult, but then when you go into your inventory, once you have your inventory set up and you're good at it, it's not going to take you any time at all. Cindy, you raising your hand? What's up? Cindy. There you go. Did you have a question?
I have a question.
We can't hear you, Cindy. Who else had a question? KB, do you have something you want to add?
Can you hear me now?
Yep,
Yeah.
I hear you now.
Oh, go ahead, Cindy.
Go ahead, Cindy.
Okay. So that first page we can't get rid of. I don't really want to print that out, or we just have to, right? So we send it to Staples as PDF.
Okay,
right?
so good point. If you want to drop that first page entirely, let me screen share. Let me show you something.
Turn the volume, I can't even hear. Oh, there we go.
Here. Okay, back to screen share. If you want to drop that first page entirely, you can do something like this. So I know that we have only 21 total pages. So we can go into, we've got this up, right? We can go into the print mode, and the printer that we select is going to be save as PDF, and we can customize which pages we want to print, and we can do 2 through 21. Okay. If we do 2 through 21, it's going to drop that first page. The other thing you might want to drop are these divider pages. I don't know, take a look at what it looks like and decide, do I want to drop these divider pages? Do I need them? If you don't, then you could do things like 3 through 10. Oh, sir, let me start over. Sorry. We could do a custom. We could do like, I want pages 3 through 10, page 13, and page 15 through 21. You could do something like that and affect what happens with your final PDF that you send to the printer, right? So go through it a few times, print a few customs, scroll through the customs and when I say print, that you either print as a PDF or print on your home printer. Find which format really, really works for you, and then go with that one. Make a final draft, and then go with that one and send that one to the printer. Because what happens is, if you send the full package to a printer and you start saying, well, I might not want this page, since they're printing double-sided, once you get the final copy back, you can't lose a page without losing something you might want. Does that make sense? So go through the paint up front and really get it dialed in the way that you want it dialed in, and then you'll be in much better shape. Good question, though. What else? Who else?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yep, I got you, KB.
So yeah, what about like if you're familiar with the client? So like last week I ran into Stone down in Vegas.
Okay.
Is this something, knowing someone familiar and say you kind of already had them? Is it not for them? Is this more for kind of new leads that are kind of fresh that you don't really know the client very well?
It's a really good question. And my answer is this. I think it's for anybody, right? So it's okay even to tell our best clients and our oldest clients, hey, I know I've known you for 10 years, but I really want to share with you how it is that we're doing business now, because so much has changed, right?
Gotcha. Yeah.
So if you go at it that way, then, it's good for anybody, really.
That'll help them sell you.
Sure will.
Yeah.
Remember my overall marketing. I don't know what it'd be called. The purpose for marketing. My overall purpose for marketing. I think the biggest mistake that anybody makes is that they think that marketing is for whoever has their eyes on the marketing piece, right? We all think that. I'm going to make a slide to show you, because I want you to read the slide and I want you to be so impressed that you decide to use me. That's what 95% of the world thinks. Next level marketing thinks a little bit differently. It says, I want to show you this slide because I want to reinforce to you why you should use me. But more importantly than that, I want the slide to make such an impression on you that the next time you're talking to somebody else, it enters your mind and you tell them about me in my slide too, right? So if you can get that into your brain as far as what marketing really is, then it doesn't matter how long somebody's known you or how many transactions you've done with somebody, or if they've been a client for years and years and years and years and years. You can't give them enough good stuff because your hope is that they're passing it along for you. It's not for them. It's for whoever they're having coffee with the next morning. Right? Anything else? Let me give you a quick update since I got about 10 minutes. I had a conversation with James Dwiggins yesterday. James is the CEO of NextHome, and there was a couple of things that came out of that conversation that I think are really interesting. The first one is this. We've been talking about the fact that there's going to be a massive increase in buyer and seller transactions in 2023. We've been super, super excited about that. And we don't really think that that's going to change, but it is looking like it's going to change a little bit in the sense that the original forecast for home sales across the nation, when people first started talking about it, was 4.9 million units. Because inflation wasn't quite where everybody thought it was going to be, and we think that's going to have a small effect on the amount that rates go down. Now they're talking about 4.5 million. So what that means in reality is that 3 months ago, we were talking about the fact that whatever you did, kind of generically and organically, you would be adding a double the amount of units without doing anything else. You would double your transaction count in 2024. Now they're saying you can look more along the lines of a 75% increase. Oh, boo-hoo, right? That sounds rough. So it is off a little bit. If you start to hear, chatter out there about that, there's already people who are saying, oh God, they were all wrong and all of that. Yeah, you know what? 100% increase is great, but 75% ain't so bad. All right. If anything else in your life went up 75%, it would probably be a newsworthy event. Okay. So there is that. The other thing we talked about, was lawsuits updates. We talk about lawsuits every time that we talk. And I thought this was really interesting. And backing up a step, so now James is personally on the panel with the NAR advising them on the settlement. That's how much the NAR thinks of him and his knowledge. They said, we want you to come in and sit on the panel and be part of our advisory committee on how we deal with this shit, right? So pretty sharp dude. There is a movement. Remember we talked about, well, here's what's going to happen. NAR is going to have to cough up $4 billion. And in order to cough up $4 billion, they're going to have to raise fees for every single realtor in the business. They're going to have to do an assessment for 4 years for $400 per member. So at the end of the day, you would pay $1,600 extra to be a member of NAR to help them pay for the settlement. We're walking away from that, which is kind of cool. So the concern was, if we do that, then the people that don't do a lot of transactions will be tempted to leave an NAR, and we don't want to give them a reason to dock membership. So the latest movement, and that's all that it is at this point, is a movement, is that NAR-related brokers, who will always be, NAR-related brokers will assess an additional transaction fee on every closing of $100, right? So you sell a house, you get your commission statement from me like you always do. It will look the way it always has. It'll say gross commission income, contribution to brokerage, transaction fee, whatever, net commission at the bottom. That bottom box that says this is how much your check is for. Right above that box, it will say NAR assessment minus $100. You'll pay an extra $100 per transaction that you do to help pay for the settlement. Personally, I think that is way better than deciding to levy $400 a year per member every year for 4 years, right? You're not going to feel that in a transaction. Most agents aren't going to feel that in a transaction. The brokerages aren't going to feel it. And if you ain't selling, you ain't paying, right? So it's overall, I think, a better way to go. And I think that movement will kind of catch traction and help settle this thing a little bit faster and without quite so much. I mean, who wants to get a stupid NAR bill, every year for $1,600? I mean, I don't want to do it. I know you don't want to do it, but I'm willing to kick, another $100 out of every transaction I do, and when I'm not even going to notice it, even though it's going to cost me more than $1,600. I understand that, but it just feels different. I'm curious, what do you guys think about that transaction fee versus an overall levy or an overall assessment from NAR? Transaction fee good, transaction fee bad. What do you guys think? Give me one of these if you think the transaction fee is the way to go versus the overall levy. And give me one of these if you think you'd rather just pay a levy. Yeah, I think that's the way it's going to go, you guys. I really do. So they're still targeting settlements all over the place, by the middle of this year. And of course, there was conversation again about what it sounds like old news to us because we've been talking about it for almost a year now. The fact that the commission decoupling is gonna come. It's a guarantee at this point. I mean, they have absolutely conceded the fact that we know. When I say we, I mean NAR has absolutely conceded to the fact that we know we're going to have to decouple commissions. It's not even a discussion item anymore. We know we're doing it. What we're talking about now is money, right? So it's happening. Everything that we've been talking about for a year, it's going to happen. The things like the buyer's presentation that I'm telling you to get in inventory, get it in inventory. Next week, we're going to go over the buyer's broker's agreement line by line so that we understand that. You're going to be completely up to speed. You're going to be far away ahead of everybody else. Okay. You're going to be absolutely ready because, we've been working on this crap for literally a year or it's or longer. Right. So it sounds like old news to us. Everybody else is just trying to figure it out because they just started realizing they should read their car and NAR emails. And they're like, what the hell's going on? It's good. It's good that we've been talking about this for so long. All right. Yeah, 2 minutes. Any questions before we wrap up? This was recorded to the cloud. I'll make sure that you guys have a copy of it so that you can go through and use it as a cheat sheet. Yeah. Somebody sell my listing in Sacramento this weekend, please. Please. Got too many plane rides to take. I need some money. All right. It's good seeing you. If you need me, you know where I am. I'll send you the cloud recording. I'm going to hang up now. Peace out.